I would like to welcome you tonight. Hopefully, everyone's feeling okay with the current situation. Some of you may be watching the news, catching up on things, but if you're here with me tonight, please grab something to eat, a cup of coffee, a pen and paper to write things down. And yeah, I just hope everyone's doing okay. And if we can better our education while we're stuck at home in isolation or whatever else, then that can only be a good thing. So, let's get started. We will just do an acknowledgement of country before we start. 30-foot drop acknowledges the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognises their continuing connection to land, waters and the community. We pay our respects to the Indigenous people, their cultures and beliefs, to the elders both past and present. 30-foot drop would like to acknowledge the Department of Communities Disability Services for the funding this and many other initiatives. Without their support, so many projects such as Two Wise Monkeys wouldn't exist or see the light of day, and we'd be so much poorer for it as a community. This workshop is part of our realities and advantages of an access and inclusion grant awarded to 30-foot drop as a part of an information linkages and capacity building grant for 2018 and 2019. Let's go through some housekeeping, the ins and outs of how we do our webinars. Unfortunately, we do not have all the resources to monitor all our live streams. So if you did have any questions for me, head over to the link below this video, which is www.30footdrop.com.au/live, and interact with us that way. Just jump into the live box at the top of the website, and then a chat box will come up at the bottom. We'll be covering a lot of information over a short period of time, so we ask all attendees if they can minimize any distractions around them so that you can benefit the most, so you can get the most out of tonight's webinar. Also, please make sure that you tag 30-foot drop in anything that you share of ours. We'd love to get our message out there, and we'd love to be involved in getting it out there, so please tag us along with anything you share to do with Two Wise Monkeys or 30-foot drop our videos. Ben did a really great video last night on looking after each other in this current health crisis. Really, really good video. Also, we will be recording the session, so if you miss anything along the way or you want to go back over it, once I've hit the end button, you can rewind it and watch it again. So feel free to do that if you like. All the research and stats and everything else that we talk about in all the webinars is all available on our website. So if you want to look more into certain things that we've discussed, everything is available on our website button in more detail. And if you know anyone that might benefit from these webinars, please let them know, because we feel the more people that know about this, the more people that are educated about disability and impairment, the better. It would be so much better as a community and as a world coming together. At the end of the webinar, we have a short survey. If you could please fill out that survey for us, it would mean a lot to us to get your feedback. We can only get better from your feedback, so please fill that out for us. Would help if I press the buttons. Right, okay, now I'm going to head over to introducing myself. I am Lisa, and I'm one of your wise monkeys. I am Hear No Evil. The other monkey is Ben, and he is See No Evil. He is the director of 30-foot drop and Two Wise Monkeys. He's the brains behind these amazing projects. And he has a story as well, but he will be sharing that story with you next week when he returns. But for now, you have me. So, as I said, I'm Lisa. I am Hear No Evil. Just by looking at me, you probably can't tell what I may suffer from. But through me, you will realize that you'll hear no evil about impairment. My story is definitely a more hidden one. At the age of 8, I was diagnosed with mild dyslexia. Teachers used to hit me on the head, yell at me in front of my classmates, "Why don't you understand? What's wrong with you?" making me feel completely dumb and unworthy. But despite these challenges growing up, I was so determined to prove these teachers wrong, and I was very stubborn to do that. So I feel like I achieved much more than they probably ever thought I would have. I have multiple diplomas in the arts field. I have one in counselling, and at present I have my own photography business. So for me, I found my positive, or my way forward, was by being creative. You may know someone out there with dyslexia or other learning disabilities. It can take a while to find that thing that you're good at, but it will be there. And once you find it, go with it. You'll feel so much better. And once I found that I was okay at artwork, it took me places. So please don't be down on yourself because you're not an amazing mathematician or an amazing speller. There is hope for you, and I am proof. Okay, so isn't there supposed to be 3 wise monkeys? You guys can take a guess on who the third monkey might be. Did you guess right? It's you. The aim of today's workshop is to turn you into a wise monkey. You'll begin on a journey of realizing that, impairment or not, we are all human and deserve to be treated with the same respect and acknowledgement as everyone else. Such an important message, especially for today. Everyone deserves to be treated fairly and equally, and if someone is struggling in the community or needs help, help them. Why not? There's nothing wrong with helping someone with a disability or impairment, but first you must ask if they want your help. Okay, outline and method of today's workshop. So how are we going to get you started on the path of a wise monkey? Well, there's a lot to learn about people with impairment and their potential impact on your business. We're going to examine the size of the market segment and what people with impairment represent, explaining who they are and their potential customer base. Then we'll examine the potential impacts they can have on your business, both positive and negative. After covering all of this stuff, we will finish off with an open forum before wrapping up for the evening. So the open forum is open the whole way anyway. If you have any questions that you want to ask me, just head over to the chat box or leave it till the end. So how are we going to cover this? What will our teaching method be? The answer is fun, open and honest discussion. Feel free to ask any questions, none are off limits. You'll notice as well that there's very little written content on these slides, and that's to help it make it easier for people that may have a learning disability, may have a hearing impairment or vision impairment. These slides are here to make it easy for everyone to understand. There's no complicated information all over the screen where you're trying to keep up with. And it's just to help us interact better. There's nothing worse than trying to keep up with the screen or having a webinar that's death by PowerPoint. We don't want that to happen. So we hope that you enjoy it. So next I want to go through some terminologies that we will be using in the workshops. To reduce confusion and ensure understanding, I want you to review some of the terminology that we will be using. Okay, first up is the difference between disability and impairment. Lots of people get this confused and think that it's the same thing, but in fact, it's not. An impairment is an injury, illness, or congenital condition that causes or is likely to cause a loss of difference of physiological and psychological function. In short, an impairment is your medical diagnosis. So my impairment is that I have mild dyslexia. A disability, on the other hand, is the loss or limitation of opportunities to take part in society on an equal level with others due to social and environmental barriers. It is, as the word implies, something that makes you unable to access or participate in something. So an example for me would be that too much wording, complex information, or sometimes stylized script can make it hard for people with dyslexia to understand, or any other learning disability, which then makes it harder for us to get the right information that we need to use your service or business. This is especially important information because some people's impairments are hidden. So potentially you could have lost a lot of business by not knowing this. So something definitely to think about. You need to make sure that on your website or your signage for your business that it's easy to understand for everyone. Because if someone can't understand it, then they're probably not going to use your business, or they'll just tap out of your website or whatever. If I couldn't understand it, I would give up just like that, because clearly don't understand it. So something to look at. Go over your websites and see, are they easy to understand for every human being? So hopefully that makes sense about the disability and impairment. Next is the difference between access and inclusion. Access refers to the removal or reduction of barriers, physical and attitudinal, to participate in the activities and functions of a community. At its core, access focuses a lot on the physical world around us and can be assessed by a checklist. Inclusion is more of a psychological state of being and is the process hereby every person, irrespective of their age, disability, gender, sexual preference, religion or nationality, who wishes to, can participate fully in all aspects of an activity or service in the same way as any other member in the community. Inclusion is making sure that everyone can take part, that everyone is included. It's not fair if someone with a disability or impairment is made to feel like they're not included. If they're made to feel like they're not included, then they're not going to want to use your business. And that is to do with a lot of things. It's how you treat them. It's the way you've outlined and worded your website. It's all inclusive things that you need to be looking at. So let's have a look. If there's any questions, please fire away. Let's have a look at recognizing your targeted market. So we're going to get into the good stuff now. Here's a business idea. Ignore the potential market. That's what many sports and athletic related businesses did until they realized in the mid 1990s that they had been passing on a goldmine. Women. Yes, you know, half the population that everyone expected would just play with Barbie dolls or prams. Well, in the 1990s was a turning point for this. The NBC's 96 Summer Olympic Games coverage was targeted at women, and sports was targeted at women than a lot more than previous years. And many more female-orientated sports advertisement, apparel and equipment lines emerged. So imagine that. Women would actually be interested in doing such things as sport. Many businesses, once again, could be ignoring or missing out on potential markets, and that is what we're here to do today. Prove to you that you are most probably missing out on this market if you haven't thought about it before now. Consider, for example, a population that has clear, persistent needs that are not being adequately fulfilled. This population spans the world and is growing and includes very motivated customers. Since this population is currently being underserved and misunderstood by many businesses, many of these lost customers would be very grateful and loyal to your business if they were just given that chance by you giving them what they need. This population is a population that is estimated to have a disposable income Australia-wide of 54 million and growing. Also consider margins and how tight they are, and finding a new and neglected population that can boost your business. So let's have a look what this population is. Here is the 100% of Australia's population. Ben assures me that he has counted 100 little people there. So let's go with that. Okay. There are approximately 5% of the Australian population living with a severe or profound impairment. These are people who require assistance or have a difficulty with mobility, communication, or self-care. So that's 5% of the population. Next is another 4%, which are primary carers for these people. So add this 5% to the above 4%, and you now have 9% who are unpaid primary carers of people with an impairment. So now it's moved up to 9%. This 9%, is this 9% potentially missing out on your products and services? Interesting stats there. Minimum market share. That's a fair share and doesn't even include families and friends who accompany this 9% of people. So you've got the 9% of people, then you've got the 9% of people which have friends and other family members, and they go to a hotel, for example. They've chosen this certain hotel, and the person with the disability can't get up the stairs. There's no lift, or there's no ramp, or they haven't got the things that they need there. Then that whole group of people are going to walk away and find somewhere else that is inclusive and accessible. So definitely something else to think about. Okay. So you may ask, if it is such a big market share, then surely they are already being served. Aren't there services such as the Paralympic Games for every 4 years for those with disability? Yes, there are some. But that's a bit like saying to women who wanted to play sports in the 1970s, yeah, but don't you have hopscotch? While some businesses do seem to understand the market of people with disabilities, many do not, and that is our message. Okay. Deloitte and the Australian Human Rights Commission released a report in February 2017 called the Missing Out Report. A great report which you must all try and read. It's available on our resource library. The business case for customer diversity. And in it they present their research findings about the missed opportunities that occur when businesses do not extend their values of fairness, equality and respect to diverse customer bases. So that includes people with disability and impairment. This research covered the diversity of areas such as gender equality, marriage equality, people with impairments, age, cultural diversity, and people who practice a noticeable faith. It is well worth reading and can be found in our digital library, like I said. The findings will shock you, so please head over and read it. You just got to read it. It's unbelievable. Now we're going to look at some graphs and look at the stats and the numbers. So graph 1. Here's one of the findings that the report had. As a customer, more people with impairment are finding that often places do not provide the products and services that they need. So that's 35% of people with an impairment that are not getting the products and services they need, and 27% of people that don't have an impairment also feel this way. Pretty bad. Next. As a customer, over a quarter of people with an impairment usually have a fear of rejection or embarrassment when interacting with businesses, based on the personal characteristics that they have. Ask yourself, do scared customers spend well? No. They just walk away, especially if they're not treated fairly and not included. Okay, graph 3. As a customer over the last 12 months, I was often treated less favourably than other customers based on a certain characteristic that I had. That's 1 in 3 people with an impairment treated this way by by a company because of their disability or impairment. No wonder some of us just stay home and feel lonely and don't want to go out, because if you're treated like that, do you really want to go anywhere? Make these people feel included in your business and they will come and see you. So graph 4. This last one shocked us the most. Getting discriminated against by one or more organisation. This is crazy. Almost 30% of people feel like they were being discriminated against by a company or business. Crazy, crazy figures. Once again, you're not going to spend money in these types of businesses if they're treating you that way. These stats show that there is definitely a market that is not having their needs met. Next, let's look at who this market is and who are the stats behind this market. Who are the people behind these stats? Sorry. Right. Tapping in. Who are people with impairment? Right. There's a picture of me and my family there and my photography. People with impairment are just like all of us. We all have passions, loves, and families. We purchase consumer goods like food, clothing, and cars. We go to the movies, we go out for dinner, we go on holidays, and we have hobbies. But for some reason, we are treated differently. In short, people with impairment are active contributors to the community and the economy. But as a result, we represent a market share to businesses and organisations, which we want you to look into. Because we are a market share, we are able to impact your organisation, and how we do that is up to you. Let's have a look at the potential impacts people can have on your business. And first we'll be looking at only a minority. When it comes to a minority, people can often say, it's only a minority. Isn't there enough of them to make a difference? Oh, there isn't enough of them to make a difference, sorry. As discussed earlier, we can safely say that it's about 9% of the population. What research has found is that people with impairment are a decisive and influential minority. Let's look at these next lot of graphs and go over the missing out report. Okay. As a customer, over the last 12 months, I have ceased completion of a transaction because I have felt that I was not being treated fairly. As we all know, purchasing power is in the hands of the customers. And when we don't get what we want and need, in terms of product and service, then we cease the transaction. So that's 29% of people with an impairment or disability ceasing a transaction in your business if they are not getting what they want or need through products and service. In the missing out report, they examined this closely and added other factors such as fairness and respect. Let's look at the fairness and respect graph. As a customer, in the last 12 months, I ceased completion of a transaction because I felt I was not being treated with respect. The results in the report show that 1 in 5 customers without an impairment will cease a transaction. This jumps to almost 1 in 3 for people with impairment when they are not treated with fairness and respect, showing that there's a negative experience is likely to drive a customer away who have an impairment. Dissuading others. More than just walking away from the sale, people with impairment are twice as likely than the rest of the population to dissuade others from using your business or service. Twice as likely. So basically, if your company is treating people with no respect and no fairness, then they are telling all their friends and your business is being affected. So something to think about there. And the negative effects. We've been asked in the past if supporting diversity in a business can affect the business. Can it drive the current customers away? The missing out report found that 12% of people were negatively affected by the business diversity reputation, but 58% of people were positively affected and 30% weren't worried. Yes, you may lose that 12% of people, but you'll gain so much more than just being inclusive. The result is not impairment specific, but and also includes other minorities that can be quite decisive, like marriage equality, people with impairment, and older people. So it's more positive though. You're going to get a positive reputation that you are inclusive, you treat people with respect, everyone is welcome in your business. And once people see that you've done that, I'm sure that 12% would drop away. Okay, key findings. To finish off this section, I want to read you the relevant key findings. Customers with an impairment are 3 times more likely to avoid your organisation and twice as likely to dissuade others because of an organisation's negative diversity reputation. There is a good chance that if your business isn't accessible or inclusive, it's already being impacted. We've covered the possible negative effects, but let's now have a look at the positive effects, something we all need today, some positivity. So next we will talk about ethical consumerism. This isn't just for positive or financial impacts, it is also a positive movement for a better future for everybody. What is it? Ethical consumerism. Ethical consumerism is a form of political activism based on ideas that purchasers in the markets consume not only goods but also implicitly embrace the products used to produce them by choosing certain products over others or even whether to purchase them at all. Customers can embrace or reject particular environmental and labour practices and make other valuable claims based on the values that they hold. Expressing choice in this way creates incentives for producers to make production practices which conform with their consumer values. Successful campaigns waged by ethical consumerism movements have popularised dolphin-free tuna, foods that are free from GMOs, sweatshop-free clothing, fair trade coffee, cosmetic products free from animal testing, and conflict-free diamonds. So if you have got a ethical value that you hold personally, like animal testing, you don't want to buy products from animal testing, so you don't, and you make that be known, and the consumers are coming around to that idea and making things that aren't animal tested. So if we keep pushing for those kind of things, then things will change. Okay, next is implying to impairment. So how can ethical consumerism be connected to people with an impairment? Who here has heard of the Quiet Hour at Coles? This program was piloted by Coles and has now been adopted by Woolworths also. For those that haven't or don't know about this movement, it is for impairments. So some impairments and people who are hyper aware of their surroundings make activities such as going to the supermarket really challenging. At Coles and Woolworths, every Tuesday between 10:30 and 11:30, the store lighting is dimmed by 50%, the radio is switched off, the register and scanner volumes are reduced to a lower level, trolley collection is stopped, roll cages are removed from the shop floor, PA announcements are stopped unless there's an emergency, free fruit is offered, and there's additional team members around to help customers. This is an amazing initiative from Coles and Woolworths and makes a great difference to many people. And it's also increased the ethical consumerism for Coles and Woolworths. If you research this on the internet, you will see that it's just been published everywhere and everyone is loving it. So it's affected the customers in a positive way. So it's something we can all think about doing. And I know in this current situation, health crisis, they are doing it here in WA, where they're opening the doors to the disabled and the elderly from 7 a.m. till 8 a.m. That's really awesome that they're doing that. so that those people can get in early and get what they need. I do feel though that that's too early for the older people and people with disabilities, and I feel like an hour is not enough time. It needs to be longer hours. Um, and once again, if you do see someone, or you've got older neighbours, or you know people with disability that live around you, um, please go and check on them and make sure they're okay, because I'm on many disability pages and I have seen a lot of people saying that they're lonely and scared, and that just breaks my heart. I wish I could be everywhere all over the world to try and help these people. But please, if you know anyone that's older or have a disability, take them some baking. Get your kids to make them a beautiful card. Brighten up their day somehow, because they are the most vulnerable and we need to look after them. We're all going to be there one day, and I would hope that when I'm a little old lady, that my neighbours or friends around me look after me too. We need to do that. Anyway, I don't want to go on and on about that current situation, but it's scary and it is real. So, if you do have to go, that's fine. We have now completed tapping in part 3. You can head off now if you like, if you've got things to do. But before you head off, if you could please head over to our website, follow the link below this video, and fill out tapping in part 3 survey. There's 5 questions, easy peasy. Let us know how we're going. But if you did want to ask me some questions, please wait for 5 minutes. I'm going to press question time on the screen here and allow you guys to ask me any questions that you have. But if you do have to go, that's fine. We will be doing tapping in part 4 Tuesday next week, and it's all online. So if you're stuck at home, come and join us. Get educated. So I'm going to turn it off for 5 minutes and I'll be back to answer any questions. But those that are leaving, thank you for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you again next week for tapping in part 4. I'll see everyone else soon. Let's have a look and see if we've got any questions for tonight. And if you've just clicked on the link, once I end this, you can watch this whole webinar again, which is great. So there doesn't seem to be any questions tonight, which is totally fine. I'd like to invite you guys to please join me next week for tapping in part 4. 4, 5 and 6, and then we'll be starting them again from the beginning. But if you've just joined us and tapped on the link, please watch this from the start. It is such an important message. Even though the stats are about Australia, it's for everyone out there to recognise, and we all need to make this change together. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you next week. See you later.